Hello, what's up, everybody? This is Conversations with Queens, and clearly the flowers have something called punctuality. They're not waiting to start; they're starting on time. To be early is to be on time. To be on time is to be late, and to be late is completely unacceptable. Those who are fraternity members and sorority members know what that means. Time. Anyway, with that being said, I want to say one thing. This is a great day, Tuesday. This is an important subject, and I want everybody to pay attention and bring everyone in. We have 16 people, but we need more. We need more. This is going to be one of the amazing shows. But I see the love because we have 32 likes, 34 actually. And that shows that you do appreciate the lady. Shout out to Jay Davila. Anybody has their stuff on, please cut it off. There's some echo. Thank you very much. Shout out to Timothy Shator. Shout out to Missy T. Shout out to Miss She. Shout out to Kim M85. E Black in the building. Ibrahim, what's up, brother? Everybody's in here. We need to bring more people in because we have officially started. Shout out to Tony Angel. This is going to be a very educational as well as spicy conversation. Spicy without the toxicity, I believe. Definitely spicy without the toxicity. But I want to say thank you. I want to give a shout out to my sponsors. One and first and foremost is my book, Loving Life Through the Eyes of Travel. Please go and get it. Amazon, Kindle, Apple iBooks, book baby. Please go and get it. Also, we want to give a shout out to Ripple. 50% discount. If you go to Ripple, the ripplecode.com, and you put the Ripple K, you get one of these for 50% discount. And it's kind of expensive, but it's worth it because there's no nicotine and there's no THC. So it's perfectly legal, perfectly safe, and perfectly happy and healthy. Thank you very much. Um, so without further ado, I would like to introduce the queens as well as one of the four horsemen, Chef, who will be up here. And if E Black wants to come up, he can come up because I will be doing my laundry, so I'll be taking a break from everybody today. I got to catch up. And with that being said, I want to say thank you. They did an amazing pre-show today, and he will be having a post show in regards to what is discussed today. Anything that gets a little bit too spicy, you can go to Chef page to hear the recap as well as the explanation of that spiciness and major information that's being given out. Brother Noomsi, we haven't seen you in a while. Thank you so much for coming. Mr. and Mrs. P, please put your stuff up there so Maricela can post up. Maricela, can you post up our stuff? Can you just click it like I do to see if it works?
Luminous Body
Just
Essential.
highlight it. Just put show. It will say show. There you go. Maricela's in charge. She has the full reign. So if anything happens, it's her fault. Thank you. She has the full reign. So I will be leaving real soon. With that being said, Headhunter, what's up? Don Frake, we love you. Jeff DeWitt, we love you, brother. Please continue to show love. Who else? Who else? Did I miss anybody? No, I didn't. This is what I'm talking about. It starts off a little bit sluggish, but we're gonna pick it up real soon. Without further ado, let's introduce the queens. Maricela, starting with you.
Hello, everyone. I am Maricela, usually in the chat. Nice to be with everybody today. I know this is a different setting for me, so we'll see how it goes. I'm actually on time today.
Yeah.
Peace to the garden. I am Hanifa. I'm excited to engage in this conversation today. I just also want to encourage you guys to both men and women to come to the stage and have the conversation with us. We are all here to learn, and we are all here to give and also to receive. So thank you for being here.
Peace, everyone. So I am Ma'at Speaks, and I'm excited to be here today and share this panel with everyone. And on to Chef.
Hey, what's up? Today it's your boy Happy man, happy man. Yes, I'm happy man. I may be different than the man yesterday, but I'm still a man. It's the happy man. Peace and blessings. Ashe, ashe, and all of those wonderful things. What's up, Garden? This ain't my night. This ain't King's night. This is a night for our flowers to not shine, but bloom. This is your night. You get me? And like I said, you know, as helpmeets as well, you guys are allowing the kings a moment to rest and repose and build back up all of that spicy energy. So, Chef Shapino, you know who I am. We're going to be doing, after the show, sometimes because the show's about 2 hours, there may be some things that may not get unpacked. There may be some folks in the chat that, you know, have some things they want to ask regarding the conversation. So we're going to use that as a wind down show. So you guys could jump over. I call it the cocktail section. You went from one spot, move the party to the cocktail section. And if you want to continue the conversation, you know, it's going to be organic. But since I'm here, we're going to have to give the rules. And we're going to have to give the explanation of where we exist. We exist not within the manosphere. We exist within our sphere. And within our sphere, there is the True Pill Garden, or True Pill Community Garden. Why do we call it True Pill? Because we do not subscribe to Blue Pill or Red Pill Rage. We are a different type of community that allows discourse and communication and real life tactical discussions, no matter how they go, in order to try and seek some sort of resolution. So within this garden, we have two pivotal life forms. One are the flowers. Those are the life bringers. They take light and turn it into air via photosynthesis. They provide life throughout not just this garden, but neighboring gardens, through seeding, through birds, through bees, and all of that wonderful stuff. But what they do for us is when we take that oxygen and use it as energy and expend it and expel it as carbon dioxide, they still take that crap, which is our waste, our metaphorical waste, breathe it back in and give us life once again. So they must be protected. Those are the most precious pieces of our garden, which must be protected. And who are we? The men. We are the rocks. We are solid, densely massed stone that sits on the outer periphery or perimeter of the garden in order to protect our precious flowers. So if anybody mistakenly attempted to step into the garden and step on our flowers, they would have to succumb to the pain of sharp stone beneath their feet and think twice. That is what we represent to this garden, the sharp stone beneath your feet that you have to worry about when you make an incursion. We understand that respect is going to be demanded. And the only other thing that I say we demand is truth, right? But respect is going to be demanded, and any undue disrespectful incursions into our garden shall be met with swift justice. So without further ado, let's get this flower show popping, man.
Popping, please let's get it popping, because everybody knows I like to start shit and I like to back away when it gets crazy. But what we're going to do right now is called Spicy Topics. And one of the spicy topics has something to do with what we as men need to realize and learn how to do. So I'm going to say a question, and I want the chat room or the community garden to express what they feel. And be honest, we up to 50 people and we have 41 likes. So turn the likes up, please. This is completely unacceptable. Let's get the likes up, because these women, these flowers deserve it. These queens deserve it. So the spicy topic of the day is, what are the ways we can protect our woman? So I have a few questions under that. The umbrella question is, what are the ways so we can protect our woman? So the question A, sub-question is, who are the women we're protecting? Sub-question B is there a time limit to protection? Like, how long do we have to protect a woman or the woman that you just described before it becomes invalid? If you get what I'm saying. And then the last one is, what if the man feels that he is protecting you, but you don't feel it? that he's protecting you, is that still valid? Those are the three questions. So let's start with the first one. What are y'all referring to when y'all say woman? What woman are you referring to, from what community? Because I want to make clarity, because someone asked that question earlier, if you notice in the chat room, what community, right? So we want to clarify here. Are we talking about all women, or are we talking about a particular group of women? Please, Maricela, everybody else, all the lady, all the flowers in the room.
Ma'at, you want to take it first? I feel like you should take this first, Ma'at.
I should take it first. Okay. Okay. Well, most of you know how I feel about my community. So when I say protecting women, it is the priority is Black women for me. Now, that doesn't mean that other women should be discarded or not even protected, but I think that we have to have a code and culture in our community. I think most other communities have sort of a code and culture, but I think in our community, we have a tendency to want to save everyone else. We want to protect everyone else. We're the type of people who want to give our energy to everyone else, and then we turn around and we don't have enough for ourselves. And I mean, we do that on a day to day. Like Black women do that, or women. I think women do that. You know, we give more of ourselves than sometimes that we give to ourselves. So when I say protect women, you know, I'm going to first look at I'm going to look at me, what's in my household. I want to make sure that I'm protected, my daughters are protected, my community is protected. And then we can extend ourselves to other cultures, but we have to make sure that we have a code and culture in our own community first, so that we don't feel that we are left unprotected. And I think that's something that we hear a lot from Black women, is that we feel unprotected. And so that, I think that answers the first question, and then y'all can answer the question, and then we can go back to the other questions.
Maricela, you want to go? No.
You can go ahead.
Oh, okay. So I am definitely not an advocate of the whole all woman, right? All of like nothing, right? I know when we have certain conversations, oftentimes, you know, you kind of have to say, you have to preface it by saying not all. And for some reason, when we have this conversation, we don't feel the need to preface it by saying not all. And I'm talking about as women. And I want to preface this conversation by saying not all. Why do I say that? Yes, I agree with Ma'at. Of course, we're going to all start with our individual self, right? Our individual families, and then our individual communities, right? The community that I belong to. I am a Black woman. So yes, I would love to see Black women protected. Do I think, and I do not want to use the word deserve here, right? I'm going to go ahead and say should. I should all women, or I could start with my community, should all Black women be protected? I think no. It depends on what the situation is. Why do I say that? I say that because I know enough men who are in the grave and who are behind bars because of a woman. Because of a woman loose lips, because of a woman initiating a dangerous situation without considering the man that she is with, and what would happen if the police is called, right? So I can't advocate in good conscience and in a clear conscience that all women be protected simply because I am a woman, right? But I wouldn't use the word deserve, because then we get into that situation to where men feel the need to only protect the woman they are attracted to. I have issue with that as well. Okay. There are situations there where men may disagree with us. It doesn't mean that they are not protecting us. They just don't agree. Now, how we disagree, I think oftentimes women, we tend to interpret it a little bit different because men approach situations different than we do. So to the question, how do men that look like me protect us? I would say we start with our young girls, for example. Protect our girls because those girls become women, right? So for example, I'll give you an example. A young girl who you might
There's
need.
feedback. I'm sorry. There's feedback. Somebody has something on.
I thought that was you. Sorry.
Okay.
So there might be we see a lot of things in the news around statutory rape and so forth. What I would like to see more of is our men not falling into the trap or pushing this narrative of this girl is just fast, right? For me, that's a lack of protection because at the end of the day, we're still talking about a child. You know what I mean? So yes, I do not subscribe to the all woman should be protected. I can't in good conscience, in clear conscience, subscribe to that. I think that in my community, I would like to see us Black men not throw Black women under the bus so easily. I would like to see them lift us up more in public, right, than we see specifically on social media and so forth. And that's a work in progress because we're gonna get into the conversation today because I could say the same thing to Black women. We could do a better job at that. So I can't go with the all. I'm not going to apologize for it. I cannot subscribe to the all woman simply because I'm a woman. I think that's bias as hell, right? And I think it's dishonest because we know some women out there that we've seen it, okay? That a man is looking like, how am I supposed? I'm trying to tell you to calm down and you won't even calm yourself down. That's me trying to protect you. And now you're endangering yourself and myself. What do you do in that situation? What do you do? You know what I mean? So that's just my response to that specific question. And we'll get deeper into it as we move on.
You're on mute.
Just to make everything clear, shout out to One Community. He's backstage right now. Today is Conversation with Queens Day. But so Maricela is in charge of bringing everybody up. So it's not me. Well, whoever she brings up is who she brings up. She has total control over that. So with that being said, I'm waiting. So contact is not me. This is the ladies' night. I'm just asking these questions. So the second question is, what is the time limit for protection of women?
Let me just answer the first question really quick.
Oh, I apologize.
No, that's okay. I completely agree with Hanifa. I don't think all women are deserving based off of their own actions, based off how they carry themselves. Sometimes it's really hard to feel like you need that protection. And I say this just based off conversations with cousins, with uncles. They're like, man, she looks like she can handle it on her own. So why would I step in? Why would I be the superhero per se if she has it on her own? So I do agree with you, Hanif, on that. Now, if it's a child, I think we all agree that children need to be protected. The second question, is there a time limit? I think so. I think if you're going to protect anybody, it needs to be done there and at that moment, unless it's going to cause more violence, more animosity between a situation. I think it just depends on the approach. Say it's an argument between her and a guy. Well, you want to vet that properly. You don't want to just step in. What if that's her boyfriend? What if she did something ahead of time? Always asking, hey, are you okay? That's fine. But if it's like a family member, even then I think you have to step back, because family members, one thing my grandma told me when I was younger was, you can tell your family your problems, but remember, they're going to hate your partner the rest of their lives. You're only going to hate your partner until you get over it. So that's just my thought on that question.
Wow.
I guess you're asking, King, like time limit as, do you need to do the protecting right then and there, or can it be done at a later time? Is that what you're saying? Like
that, and I'm also saying, you know, sometimes it's not always an immediate protection. Sometimes most men like to observe the situation and they understand that a lot of things are interconnected, right? So you just can't say stop one person and not realizing that might affect something else, that might affect something else, right? So we have to be very mindful of, at least me, I just don't jump into any situation until I get full context of the situation because you don't know what you're jumping into, right? If you see a woman getting a possible attack, what if that woman stole something? Or what if that woman molested his child? We don't know, right? But like I said, if you see someone in danger, what do you expect us to do? Because we're asking you, what are you expecting us to do, right? And also, I like to make a confession because you stated something that was very important. You said people tend to protect women that are prettier, Hanifa, right? Right.
Men tend not tend to, but when we talk about protection, we're talking about not just protecting the woman that you are attracted to. Yes.
Yeah, I'm not gonna lie, I'm guilty of that. I'm definitely running to the prettiest girl and trying to protect her. The reason I say that is because the same way a woman will protect the man that's invested in her. Like we always protect who we want to be invested in or who's already invested in us. You will protect your son faster than you protect another person's child. You will protect your husband before you protect another man. You have to take care of yours. Now, if a woman is pretty, more likely a man is trying. That's his way of courting her, saying, "Hey, listen, I'm protecting you." But we all, I think, women and men are guilty of protecting whoever has, whoever we have more stake in or want to have stake in. I think I'm not saying it's right, but I'm saying we do it.
Right, and that's why I brought it up because I think that is an issue that we have to unpack. That's an issue that has to be addressed because if we're going to say if there's someone that's in danger, I'm going to speak to the time piece. I think it depends as far as the time limit. If there's someone that's in immediate danger, yes, and oftentimes I've had situations where I should have stood up and I hesitated and I didn't stand up. And I want to say maybe years later or something in retrospect, maybe I'm doing some shadow work or something, that thing comes up and it's like, wow, man, I could have done this differently. So instead of allowing my guilt to drag me, I just said, you know what, the next time I'm in a situation like this is how I'm going to address it and so forth. So as far as the time thing, I think that yes, if there's someone is in immediate danger, yes. Now you asked the question, and I'm glad you asked that because this question comes up often. Well, you don't know what she's done. Let me tell you something. If I see Shaquille O'Neal stopping a woman, I don't care what she's done.
Right.
I don't. When someone needs to stop that because someone is clearly at a disadvantage, very clearly. So it really, that's what I said. It depends on the situation. And for me, I don't think in that moment that you wanna hesitate just to say, well, I don't know what she's done, because I think that some people use that as an escape out of the situation because they just don't want to get involved. And I think we should be a little bit more honest and just state whether we want to be involved or not versus I don't know what she's done. Not specifically you, King, because people ask that question. Yeah. But I'm saying, let's be honest. You see a man like he's stomping a woman out. He's beating her down. He's clearly has a power, their physical advantage over her. Someone needs to step in. Right? And protect that lady. You're not protecting her simply because she's innocent. You're protecting that person because there is clearly a big advantage here, right? There's a strength dynamic at play. This person, that lady could slap Shaquille O'Neal and that could feel like a pinch to him. But if he slapped her, he could knock her whole head off her body, depending on who she is. So the dynamics really plays a part in what is the dynamic, what is happening. Now, if I see a man and a woman arguing, now, yes, he could be cursing her out because maybe she did something to violate him. I'm not sure I have to step in just for words. But physical altercations where the man is clearly has an advantage, that's a whole nother situation. But I want to also say I would step in as well, King, because I've seen situations where these like really huge women are flinging these, I'm trying to use the right term, we just say MAGA. These MAGA man, these real
MAGA man, skinny man. They don't know what MAGA means. They don't know what MAGA means.
MAGA man, skinny man.
Right. These extremely petite men, extremely petite men, just dragging them all over the place. I would feel the need to step in that situation because someone is clearly at an advantage here, and it's the woman in this situation. But I would still feel the need to step in, right? Not because she's go ahead.
Yeah, I'm sorry. I want to say I agree with Jen on this matter in that particular answer because me personally, I said it to, I think I said it to Maricela one time. I said, Maricela, if you're going down the street and you see a woman being attacked, if I see a woman being attacked, my main goal is to make sure my family is taken care of first. After that, I'm as long as my lady and my children are taken care of, that's my interest, right? Yeah. Because one of the biggest things for me is if I join this movement or this concept or ideology of protecting black women or all women, who's going to protect my woman if Shaq beats me up? Right? We have to be very careful of the struggles that we adopt. What are the struggles are we adopting? Is it worth not being there for your family? I am allowed to help out every woman, every black woman. Why? I don't have children. I don't have a wife. So put me on the front line. For me though, if I had a wife and I had children, I don't care about nobody but my wife and my children. I'm just being honest.
No, that's fine.
I'm being real. If it's not my wife, they have to be okay.
Yeah, I understand, Chef. I mean, King, and I think the situation should be assessed. That's why you hear me say like this idea of just protect women simply because they're women. Yeah. I can't subscribe to that. I really can't. I like I said, like in clear conscience, I cannot. I don't believe in that. You know what I mean? I just can't. And maybe I'm gonna go ahead and let Maricela and Ma'at kind of, you know.
My question would be who at what point or who is going to protect women? So I think one of King, you said that you don't know what the women did. And so Hanifa, you made a good point that it kind of doesn't matter what they've done, because is it equating to someone getting stomped? It kind of reminds me of what happens when someone black, and especially a black man, gets killed. It goes to what did he do? Or and it's like, did he deserve to die though? You know, is that an equal punishment for, you know, and that's what we get in our community. A lot of times when women are getting abused, we go straight to, well, what did she do? Instead of just going into the mode of, did she deserve to be abused in that way? Did she deserve to get bones broken and things like that? So my question would be to the men on the panel is, who's going to protect the women? It's just like I think it was last week or a couple of weeks ago, there was I think the guy was 19 years old and the girl was 19, I believe. It was in Virginia, and she ended up getting, it was an altercation, and then there was like 4 black women, I think, approached the situation, and then he ended up shooting them. And I think at least 2 of them died. I can't remember how many died, but at least 2 of them died. And so it was women going and trying to protect this young lady. And so what do we do in these situations? Who's going to protect them? Because a lot of times, even when Black women call the police. They're still not getting the protection that they need. And I do hear the other side of, there's a lot of times when Black, when you approach those situations, there are women who will defend the person who is abusing them. They'll say, well, don't worry about what's going on over here, mind your business. So that's what I mean when we have to have a code of culture. So who do we protect? And as men, when do you step in? When do you say that I'm going to protect, even if that person might not want my protection? Or even if you have a family, if you do have a family, even if I see this happening, do we just drive by? And then if they end up on the 10 o'clock news, how would that make you feel if you saw this happening and you did nothing?
Is that question for us?
Yes. Yes.
I wouldn't care.
Okay.
I wouldn't care because that's not my wife and my children. I wouldn't care. I would just be, thank God, let me rush home quicker to be next to my wife and my children so nobody takes advantage of them. That's just me. I think what happens is we're dealing with the byproduct of a systemic issue. And the systemic issue is having broken families. If we never had broken families, then every man and brother and uncle could protect the woman in their particular family or community. But because we have broken families, we have this disproportionate amount of uncared for, unprotected women and men, not enough men to go and risk their lives to protect them.
So
This is
go ahead, I'm sorry.
This is a byproduct of broken families. The only way to fix this problem is to have complete holistic family structure or community structure. Here's a real story. My father started the neighborhood watch in Brownsville. He stopped after a few years. He stopped. And the reason why he stopped was because he realized there were husbands that would not participate in the neighborhood watch. So he was protecting their woman, but no one was protecting his family. See, people take advantage of those who, if you notice of people that's going to protect your woman, tell men, you'll say, okay, you go and protect them because I'm staying home. It has to be a synergy where everybody's protecting everybody, or you're going to continue to have this problem. We have broken homes. This is why women are not protected in the way they should be, because there's not enough men to do it. Okay.
Now you were flowing. So I'll say this, Matt, in terms of to answer that question, right? And I do this with the folks that I lead, in corporate America. And I kind of turn the camera, right? So you're a great sister, intellectually sound, you vibrate at a higher level. So I'm not trying to end up on the couch tonight. I ain't trying to end up on the couch tonight. So make believe I'm Mr. Mayat, right? Call me Mowat. You got it? Mo. Right? So 14 years. 14 years you guys been married, right?
Yeah. Almost 14. Yeah.
Almost 14. Ups.
Well, I'm sorry. Hold on. Marcella, can you bring up, is it possible, do you know how to bring up TJ? Because Maricella's in charge of all this. So if you don't get pulled up, it's her fault. Just want to point that out. Okay, thank you. Just want to make sure you know how to play everybody. So it's not me. She's in full control. Thank you.
So through all the peaks and valleys of the beautiful relationship that you shared, right? And if you, my wife, 14 years, beautiful children, 2 or 3, if I remember, right?
4.
4. Okay. Even more. And I made this covenant before our deity for you. And we've gone through all of this beautiful life and raising children and raising everything. Would you want me to jeopardize your king or the rock that protects the garden of you and your daughters to just sacrifice himself for a stranger? Now, I'm not saying that I've never sacrificed myself for a stranger because I have, right? I'm just stating about, we protect what we love, we cherish what we love, and a union is even more special and precious than just a thing that you love, because a union reciprocates and it's constantly evolving. It's an energy, it's a ball of energy.
Right.
Would you want him? Your king, the man, your Prince Charming, your everything. Would you want him? Uh-oh. Oh, would you? Oh, okay, you're giving me the close-up. I wasn't used to that. Would you want him to put himself at that risk? Would you be totally fine with him potentially martyring himself and also somewhat killing part of your family to help somebody who you've never seen before, who he doesn't even know what precipitated that? You know what I'm saying?
Mm-hmm.
For the ideal of protecting all women, you and your children are his women as well.
Yeah, so this is a conversation that we've actually had. I've had this exact conversation. And so the short answer would be no. I would not want my husband to jeopardize being away from our family, because that would also cause conflict. It would cause maybe even trauma in my kids in the long run. But the other side of me would say what wanting and actually what he should do are two different things. And so the question would be, as a community, what are we doing as a community? And how do we even define a community? Okay, I'm like, why I'm here by myself?
Yeah.
No, it's a solo shot because I'm going to be doing clips. So I'm doing solo shots now. So I want solo shots. So I'm just doing close-ups and stuff like that. So
fancy on you, getting fancy.
So you have to be very prepared for that. But I want to say something after you. I have a question for you, Maya.
Okay.
King, before you ask the question, I just want to respond to what Chef said as well, please. Hi.
Go ahead.
Oh, no. I was waiting for my ad to finish.
Okay.
So the thing is, when I say the short answer is no, I wouldn't want him to do that. That's me kind of in my selfish, and I would even say in my lower self, because that's something that I want. That's something I desire. I don't want my husband to sacrifice himself. But the other part of me that is kind of in my higher consciousness, I would say, well, what is best for the community? So anytime that I look at those two things and they're kind of opposing views, I would say, what would be best for the community? Would it be best that my husband sacrifice, or would it be best that he not do those things? But I've said this before, it's not even about the personal risk of one person, because one person cannot help all these families, right? There's no one man in this community who's Superman. It's a collective effort. And it's also, there are certain people that should take reign over that and say, hey, we are coming together, protect. That's what we had at one point. When and so we had at one point a group of men who are protecting, making sure that we had the things that we need in our communities. So the question still exists, is first we have to define what a community is. A lot of us are at a time in our lives where we don't even know, some of us don't even know our cousins, right? There are cousins I have that I don't even know. So that's something that we have to start defining, so that we can say that, no, King, you don't have to do that by yourself, or you don't have to stop. But we have some people in our community who is willing to take those sacrifices for the greater good, for the continuation of our communities. But right now, it's just saying, hey, you see this happening, you go do it, instead of actually coming together and having that code, and having that and even, you know, that that what you even said, that reciprocal exchange, for the whole collective, and not just one person doing all of this.
Right. So what I'm going to do, what I'm going to do,
Here's the challenge. Here's the challenge with that, Ma'at, that I see. So there is what protection means to one woman may be something different to another woman, right? So the challenge becomes when we talk about that men should protect women. I might come in and say, well, this is how I feel protected, right? And then Miss TJ, Mama TJ is gonna come in and say, this is how I feel protected, right? It's what happens is the question then arises, like, how are we expecting men to protect if we all have different definitions of what protection looks like? Then also too, to add to that, there are various forms of protection. So for example, if King is with his family and he walks down the street and he sees an altercation between a man, maybe a man is beating his woman in the car, right? King's way of protecting might say, let me just call the authorities to come and do this. That is a form of no, not right there on the spot. You could go.
I'm not calling authorities.
No,
It don't have to be the authorities, though. It can be some people who gonna handle business.
No, I'm not going to do that unless it's a woman in my particular community, right?
No. So King, that's fine. You're very clear on you only protecting your family. I'm just saying in general, when we're having this conversation, I think what women need to understand as well is that protection may look different to a man than it does to you. That man might say, I am not putting my cape on because I'm just simply trying to get home to my family. So here's what I can offer as protection. I might just call the authorities. Hey, this guy is beating his woman in this car. I might not have to do it right in front of him. I can go somewhere on the side and I can make that call. That man might say, that's me doing my part, because I don't know what the situation is. I don't know if this guy has heat on him. That's another thing. I don't know if he's armed. I'm not going to just inject myself into the situation. So that could be a form of protection, right? And then also too, being aware that you can get involved and that woman could then flip on you, right? And I'm using women in this case because protection looks different for all women. Like I could be in a situation, for example, and I'm just going to use this as an example, right? We had a conversation with something that happened with Daro, and Daro had a ranting video of something because something happened with his child and the mother of his child. And I know that Ma'at, you came to the stage, you explained that what you heard hurt you, and that's fair. My response, even though I'm a Black woman, I didn't feel the same way. Why didn't I feel the same way? Because I understood it in its context. I also are around a lot of men who are hurt by women. I also have sons, and I'm sure you have sons, Ma'at, I don't know, right? But I also know that the likelihood of Black men and Black boys being protected is very, very slim. That's a conversation we don't have. So here's the thing to that. We are expecting men to protect the very women who abuse them, right? But I divert. That's another conversation, but I don't think we put these things into perspective. We make these blanket statements, and the reality is that there's a lot of us, and I'm going to speak for our community here, with all due respect, Maricela, is that a lot of our men are wounded from women that look like you and I, Ma'at, right? So the likelihood of them seeing a woman that looks like you and I and looks like them being hurt and feeling the need or the push to protect becomes very low. But we don't talk about it in that context because we want to generalize and simply say women should be protected simply because their gender is female. And I'm saying no, that's not how it works. There's nuances to this. We can't just make a blanket black and white statement. You have to protect simply because you're a man. A man. It depends on the situation, and also how I see protection may not be how Maricela sees protection. And then also there are various ways in which you could protect without putting yourself in danger. So I wanted to add that as well.
I'm just gonna say I'll say one more thing before TJ speaks. So I think we have to understand also when we're talking about protection on a community level, it's gonna look different than protection that you're gonna get from day to day. So we can't expect a random man in our community to protect us when that type of protection should be coming from our spouse or our significant other. So there are different types of protection that we need to consider. Men cannot protect us. Black men, just random black men who we don't know, cannot protect us from every single thing in our lives. We have to make sure that we're not asking them to protect us, from some kind of emotional trauma in our life that keeps rearing its head when they don't have any connection with that. So a lot of times when we're talking about protection on a in a community, we're talking about most of the times we're talking about physical protection. There can be other ways, but once you get to know people, sometimes those things get conflated because then you start expecting them to protect you when in all actuality, that is something that someone who's close to you, maybe a family member or a spouse, is supposed to be doing. So I think we have to make sure that we're not, and I'm not saying that Black men are supposed to be protecting us from everything in the world. It's more of, are you protecting us as much as you would protect someone else in another culture? And are you respecting who we are as Black women, and not always looking to rationalize why we don't need your protection?
Well,
So
I want to say something, but I really want to hear what TJ has to say, and hopefully Maricela starts, controlling the room, because we want to make sure everybody gets a fair chance to speak. But what I want to say is that one of the things that stood out to me is that you said, Maya, that individuals, how can I say this? Your definition of community, what's best for the community, like what you will want and what's the right thing to do is different, right? So you're saying that the right thing to do for the community is to protect that woman that's being harmed. For me, the right thing to do for the community is to protect the family that's intact.
Okay.
Because yes, because if I'm a man with a wife and a child, and that lady is getting harmed, and I made an oath to that woman and said, my job is to protect you, that's actually better for the community when you have a tight family, complete family unit. Why would I jeopardize my life to have two broken families in the community? Possibly. Let's say possibly.
Mm-hmm.
That's what I'm saying. That's why I think
Hanifa made a good point about what protection looks like. So that might not be the way that you protect. So you would only protect basically your family, your unit, your kind of your community, in a sense, the people that you know. And
I'd have.
I think,
Go ahead, ma'am.
I think that's fine. But also I do think that Hanifa made a good point about protecting someone else, not you, King, but someone else, let's say Chef, would say, I'm going to call someone, the authorities, or some people who are about, about the whatever code and culture we have established, to help this woman who needs help because she's getting abused and she needs help. So I think that it's not, I'm not saying that every man should be sacrificing himself for random women. I'm saying that we have to establish some type of code to say who is getting protected and when are they getting protected. And when we see something, or even if I see something, who do I call if I see something? If I don't think the police are going to handle it, who do I call? Who do I talk? Because I can't walk up and protect a black anybody, really. If because I don't have the strength of a man. So I'm saying, who are we going to call? What kind of code are we going to get into place so that women who do need protection, who do want protection, are getting protected?
Well, the last thing in this, TJ, I'm sorry, TJ, last thing, that could never happen in our community. And when it happens, it fades away quickly.
Okay.
There was a time in America where you had the draft system, where you had no choice but to go to the army if you were a certain age. Then they stopped it. Now it's volunteer based. They were able to do that because they're able to give benefits. Most of these organizations, like my father started, that protected the community in our neighborhood, Nehemiah Homes, within Brownsville, Brooklyn, they were volunteer. But then who's going to protect the family when they come home tired from work? They got to fend for the family. There's no benefits besides I love my community. When that man, that gangster who you got, that group of gangsters or warriors who you got to protect your community, go to jail, who's paying for their bail and their lawyers? Who's taking care of their family?
And that's what.
And so that's what I'm saying. It's not going to happen anytime soon.
And I agree that it's not going to happen anytime soon.
TJ, I'm sorry.
Let's let TJ talk.
After TJ, I just have something quick I want to add. Go ahead, TJ.
I was about to get off. I think, King, you're absolutely right. I mean, I'm listening, and I think what we are proposing on a very large scale is really insurmountable, in my opinion. Because for one, we do not have, when we talk about how we were as a community before, there are so many things we don't have the leadership that we had before. We don't have anybody that we will listen to follow their lead to protect women. I look at the whole idea a little differently, and maybe it has to do with my generation. Maybe it has to do with the fact that I was in the military, because when I have seen things, I always get involved. Always. When I showed my husband, there was a video of this elderly woman on a train or a bus, and this man was heckling her because she had a mask on. And I showed, and people were just watching and filming. And my husband said, there's no way I would have stood there and let that happen. The woman that got raped on the train, that got raped on the train not too long ago, people just stood and watched and videotaped it. A Black woman watched her get raped. My husband said, there's no way I ever would have stood back and watched that happen. I don't know if it's because of the generation that I'm in and the things that my husband's in, that we see it differently, because we do get involved. There was a lady, I was in the park and I was walking, and she was sitting in the middle of the walking path. Most people just walking by her, not even asking her if she's okay. I stopped. I don't know if she was mentally, had mental problems, but I stood and I tried to talk to her, and then I called the authorities and waited until they got there, because I wanted to make sure she was okay. She may have had a weapon, I don't know, but it's just something inherent in me, and it's inherent in my husband, and I don't know if it's just, like I said, if it's our generation, because, his father was very old school. And then I think about my grandfather. But King, you're absolutely right. When you talked about what your dad put together, this neighborhood watch, and then, the men who were in the home said they're not going to volunteer. So again, if you're not even going to protect your own wife, so again, you have families. You had men in the home with the families who chose not to even participate. So again, it is difficult when we think of that in a holistic way. It is, quite frankly, too much to take on. It just is.
Wait, can I say one thing?
Yes.
TJ, this is for Mishi. No disrespect to you or your man, but it's not the same. He's a first responder, so correct me if I'm wrong, and I would say sorry if I am. He's getting paid to do that.
The thing is, I think but because I was literally typing a response to her, telling her that her opinion actually will be valuable, and I'll say why. She wakes up in the morning and goes to sleep knowing that her man is going. Listen,
you're right.
Regardless if it's for money, she goes to sleep and wakes up knowing that her man is going to be risking his life for strangers. So the money that goes into his pocket doesn't matter. First responder. Technically, in terms of this conversation, that's what they are stating that we may or should be to the women in our community. First responders don't denote color, my wife, his wife. They go into the burning building. Yeah. So
I would have to disagree with that.
Her opinion might literally be something interesting because she lives with that fear that the ladies on the panel said they wouldn't want their man to subject themselves to. But
again, I think because I was in the military, I think the same way.
Right.
Because again, the military it's never about self. It's about service. So again, from the mindset that I grew up under and then being in the military, that I continue that. But I think when we talk about community, it's hard to kind of figure how you can put that into play because we just don't have the leadership to galvanize such an effort that way. I'm not saying we shouldn't try.
Right. So I want to say something. I want to say because I started the whole thing, so I want to say something. There's no disrespect to the first responders because during the pandemic they are the most important people, but it's not the same thing because you're getting paid. One, if something happens to you, your wife and children are taken care of. Pensions, they're taken care of. What we're talking about, if you see someone getting hurt and you volunteer yourself and you disregard who's going to take care of your family, that's not the same thing. That's why I use the analogy of the army. Back then they had a draft. Then now it's volunteer basis. But if you die serving the country, your children will be okay if you fill out the proper paperwork.
Financially,
this is a fact. There's no paperwork in the world that's gonna help your wife or your children saving another black woman that has nothing to do with you and your legacy. There's nothing. We're not that united yet. I like Freeman Journal. Bring them up if you want to, but I like Freeman Journal.
Maricela was trying to say something as well.
I just wanted to go back to a comment that I had seen that Jen posted. If we as women have asked ourselves, are we really wanting our husbands to put themselves out there for another woman? Like, let's just be honest. I was with somebody, I'm single now, but I was with somebody that was a superhero. Any situation, he would jump at it to save the day. Now, would I ever want that? I don't want that. I would not want a guy to go and jump and save every person that he could. I agree with King, and I also agree with TJ. Like, as a service person, that might be the way you proceed with when you see those things. But at the same note, I'm calling the first responders saying, hey, I'll wait here till you get here. But if it's really bad, I'm not waiting. I'm not going to put in jeopardy my child just because somebody chose to make bad decisions in life. Like, I just have to be honest about that. I feel bad, but I'm not going to jeopardize my situation so that way somebody else can be protected.
I grapple with it, quite frankly, because when I think about the young lady, when I think about an elderly person that I've encountered, I think about how would I want somebody to treat my grandfather or my grandmother or my mother or my daughter, and that a lot of times what prompted me to get involved is because I'm thinking there was one day I was literally sobbing because this elderly person was having trouble getting into the store, and people just walk past him. And I couldn't believe it. And so I told him, I said, sir, just sit here and I'll find you a cart. And even the people in the store wouldn't even, I try to get people in the store to help while I'm on break. So I found a scooter for him to get into, and I, helped him. And when I got to my car, I just cried because I'm like, I can't believe that we have as a community, because when I say, I mean a human community, but because I'm going to tell you, there were quite a few Black folk that walked past this man too. This elderly man, see him struggling, did nothing. So I cried because I'm thinking, I just did what I would have hoped that somebody would have done for my grandfather had he been out there. Now, my grandfather wouldn't have been out there because that's how we handle it. But I thought if he would have, or if somebody in my family was out there, that I only did what I would have wanted someone else to do. And I'm disgusted that we have come to a place that we walk by stuff like that. So I'm not saying don't try, but I'm not sure I'm going to see it in my lifetime on a larger scale.
And I'll say that done. Because that, a lot of, when it comes to things, even when you say like seeing something in your lifetime, I think we kind of, most of us understand that we're not necessarily going to see certain things in our lifetime. So it's just like before my grandmother transitioned, it was an amazing thing for her to see a Black president, right? And so that's something that, was amazing for a lot of people in that generation. So I'm not expecting for us to have it all together even before I transition, if I live to be 90 or 100 years old. But I think a problem that we have is that we have an idealistic view of our leaders. Most of our leaders, or our leaders that are thought to be highly, thought about, they were not liked in their generation. So we hold them and say we don't have these leaders, but we have people who are ready to do things in the community to make it better. So I think that, even when we talk about Malcolm X, right? Like when Malcolm X was going with his dad to UNIA Marcus Garvey meetings, he was just a little boy, and those seeds were being planted in him. So then when he became older, he did certain things for the Black community. So I think a lot of times when we say that's not going to happen, no, it might not be happening right now, but it can. Are we going to even think about the life that we want our children, our grandchildren, and the next few generations to have? Do we want it to be a greater place for them? So I think we have to, in a sense, not be so idealistic about past leaders, and understand that we can be planting certain seeds into people who can become leaders. There are many people who are ready to do that and who are doing things. They're doing things in the community.
If I could say something before I let the guest, because I know we have a guest that just came up, and I'm going to let him speak. I just wanted to respond to a couple of things that I heard. I think the challenge or the problem that we're having is that we want to talk about community without communing with each other, right? You can have a community and you're not communing, right? The reality is this, and I feel challenged even listening to this conversation, because when we talk about community, we are talking about community based on skin color and race. But the reality is this: TJ is all the way over yonder, right? And I'm claiming her as my community, but I've never communed with her. I don't know her. I don't know her hang-ups. I don't know her child. I don't know anything about her, right? I don't even know if she's a serial killer. But here I am, and I'm like, This is my community. Here's what I'm going to challenge each one of us on this panel and those who are listening. Your community, your first community is the community of self, right? Acquaint yourself with that, with all the different parts of yourself. Reconcile all those parts of yourself. Then you work outwards. Get along with your siblings in the home, right? We asking people to protect strangers, and they can't even get along with their mothers. They can't even get along with their fathers. They can't even get along with they can't even get along with their husband and their wives, right? Their children hate them. Okay? So my challenge is this. When we talk about community, start with self. Then start with your home. And guess what? That neighbor next door, go next door and introduce yourself. We're talking about community and we're not communing with each other. How many of us know our neighbors and we've lived in the neighborhood for how many years? So, and then the issue of leadership. I'm going to push back a little bit on you, Mama TJ, right? My understanding of leadership in this sense is this. The issue with people that look like me is we have a savior complex. We are always waiting for somebody to come and save the day. The truth is this. We should not need someone to lead us to have compassion and connection to our neighbors. We shouldn't need a leader for that, right? What is going to push you to feel the need to step in? Connection. And the reason why most of us don't feel it, because we don't have connection with the people that live directly across the street from us. We don't even know who they are. We might look out the window and say, oh, they have rude children. Look at how the teenagers conduct themselves. Oh, I don't want my children to play with them. You're not communing, but we want to talk about community. And so my challenge in this conversation to us and those who are listening is tomorrow, tonight. I don't know what time it is where you live at. If it's morning time, take a walk across the street and introduce yourself to your neighbor that you've been passing straight for 5 years. Before we start talking about community and protection. A big part of it is that we are disconnected from each other. We want to talk about community because it sounds good to say. We want to talk about community because we want a sense of belonging. But the reality, what is the reality? We have to face the reality. We are disconnected from each other and we are afraid of each other. We are afraid of each other. Our young people are watching us, right? And the reason why they don't have anything or any examples is because we are afraid of our young men and our young women because they're a little bit wild. So what do we think is going to happen to them?
Not to cut you off, but there's something very important to this topic and this channel. It's called algorithms. We have 107 people, up to 111 people that come to watch us speak, and we only have 89 likes. I need 100, or no one says anything. This is how it works, because the more likes we have, the more they expose us, and more people get to see this wonderful information that you are giving. It works like that. We don't want any money. Put the likes up to 100, or we're just going to stand still. We usually get 100 likes the first hour. We usually don't start until it's 50 likes. We started because the ladies wanted to do y'all a favor. It was up to me. I let y'all wait. They like y'all more than I like y'all. So please give 100 likes before we continue this conversation. And there's someone in the lobby called Chaotic Truth. We want to hear what he has to say, if it's positive.
You can go ahead and let the guests go next.
Yeah. No, but let's wait till get 100. You could do whatever you want. We need 100 likes. We need 100 likes. We need actually 122, but I take 100 likes. We need 3 more, and we get 100 likes, and then we continue. That's how it goes. They know what time it is. Thank you. We're up to 101 now. Now y'all can have fun. Thank you.
Can we also answer the question that King posted up here?
Oh yeah, I post that question because I like to make y'all feel uncomfortable, and I want y'all to answer this question.
Well, why don't we have the guest come? Because when he came in, if he may have came in at a certain point to say something.
Good. So Yes,
because
yes,
that question is specifically to the men on the panel.
yes.
So
You're
go ahead.
absolutely right.
I can't see your name, sir, but you can go ahead and speak. You just
Freeman's
came.
Journal.
Okay.
Freeman's
Yeah.
Journal.
Hello, everybody. Good evening.
Peace, bro.
Thank you for the time. Well, I'll answer the question first. The answer is keep it moving. Keep it moving. So they're talking about leaders in the community, and I don't think women want leaders. I don't think their actions have shown that they want leaders in the community. I think they want their modernity and their independence. And with modernity and independence comes the responsibility. So if you want protection in society as a whole, you know, that comes with being under authority. If you want the protection of a man, that comes with being under authority. That's just how it works. If you don't want that, then you don't get that. So, I mean, and we're spending a lot of time on the presumption that it's just women that need protection. Who is protecting young Black boys? You know, Black men are reading at a historically low level. Who is protecting them? You know, and when I look, I see women turning the gears of education that are failing young Black boys, but I don't see that brought up. I don't see women railing against that because it's women doing it. You know, dads on duty, that was real popular a couple days ago. Look, who is the principal? You want to see who the principal is? You can bring it up. The Detroit 300. You want to see who are the commissioners of the Detroit school district that is failing young Black boys? Hello? That's a real question. Do you want to see them? So, you know, we're going round and round about this like men owe society something or women something. You chose. You made your decision. You know, hey, at Bessemer, Alabama, you're going to have to beat men to the situation, right? You're going to have to sprint before a man to get to a woman in distress. New York City, not so much. So with modernity comes responsibility. So if you want to be modern, get with those hands. So, and the atomization of society is another topic, building community and so forth, but that's a job for men, right? A job for men is community, is forming the bonds, and that provides the protection. So, you know, choose different. If you want society to run a certain way, choose different. Because I know I live in a city and I'm protecting my family and I'm protecting my community. Why? Because my daughter is here. So I can't have ne'er-do-wells in my neighborhood. I can't have them on the street. I have to go to school board meetings. So that's just how it is. So if you want different, choose different. That's what I have to say.
Thank you, Friedman.
Thank you.
So now can we ask the tough question now? Because Freeman just dropped the mic.
I was speaking, but I was on mute. But
Oh,
go ahead. I was simply saying that since he brought that up, I feel like it's a good segue into what the actual topic is today. I don't know if my aunt and Maricela would agree, but the topic was we were talking about the toxicity and who's to blame. So he pretty much put the ball in the woman's court. So I feel like it's a good segue into that part of the conversation, to have that conversation. And I don't disagree with Friedman. I do agree that because in the beginning I was going to talk about this push for equality and what that means. And I think that women need to understand that there are repercussions, there are consequences for what they're asking for, right? If you are saying you don't want men at least as leaders, I mean, I don't necessarily subscribe to that, Friedman. I have my own, you know, approach to that and how I see it. I'm not saying that men aren't supposed to lead. I just don't believe in the whole hierarchy of it, but that's me. But I do agree with you as far as women making certain decisions and then not understanding the consequences that come with it. I have sons. So when you talk about Black boys being protected, I also walked for foster care for a really long time. So I know exactly what you're saying. The educational system, it is failing. Most of the teachers are women and so forth. So I don't disagree there. I have no disagreement there, but I do want us to use this opportunity to segue into our main topic, which is who is to blame for the toxicity in our communities. And, you know, anyone can take it at this time.
Really quick, I just want to go ahead and pull up two of our guests that have been waiting here, Chaotic Truth and Henry Dantes as well. Welcome.
I'm gonna go ahead and go to let some lay room for other people. Very good dialogue, and I think as I exit, I think I'll say this: well, the pushback that women are getting today, and how women are viewed today for the most part, is the same way that women viewed men 20, 30 years ago. So the question becomes, what do we do about it? The question becomes, are we going to continue to push back and forth? Because we know the problem. We know what the problem is. I'm really tired of talking about it, quite frankly. But I'm really tired. I am married because I got the revelation.
Mm-hmm.
I got growed real. Okay. So I'm really tired of talking about whose fault it is, because there's enough blame to go around to keep it one thou wow. Seriously. It is. So I'm gonna listen, and hopefully I hear something that moves it forward, as opposed to just wallowing in the quagmire that we know exists. Good
Mama
night.
TJ, before you
Yes.
go, I just want to tell you thank you for gracing us with your presence, and you are always welcome here. And we do intend to leave here with some solutions. But I thank you as always. We appreciate your contribution to the conversation, Mama.
Well, thank you for having me. I appreciate it. Good night.
I don't know if Maat or we could segue into um, the conversation of who's to blame. And then, of course, the other question is, how do we fix it? That is a part of the or another one of our questions. I think there's enough blame to go around. If it says no one wants to start, I'll go ahead and start. I think both are responsible. I think men and women. I think TJ touched on a very important part where for a long, long time, woman has have been dragging men, right? And I think that it dragging men in the sense of, and let me speak to, I'm a Black woman speaking, so I'm talking about the community that I belong, the collective I belong to. When I say dragging men, I mean, like, very critical in the public sphere, having the very strong opinions. We don't need them and so forth. And I think that it has come to a climax where there's a response now coming from men. And the women are crying, woe is me, or you guys aren't protecting us and so forth. But for a very long time, we sort of was going at men for a long time. And I get it, with the shift in the society and everything. But the reality is that I think that there are two extremes that are happening right now, because you have an extreme where women are saying we don't need men. And then we have the other extreme where now men are actually saying they don't need women. And I want us to have the conversation where we could pull those two extremes into the middle and come up with some things that we could begin to do. I'm not saying that we have an overnight solution, right? So I don't want this conversation to be, well, if women did this wouldn't happen. And I don't want it to be, if men did this, then this. I want us to discuss what needs to happen to bring those two extremes in the middle, right? To come in the middle and meet peacefully. What are some of the things we could begin to do, right? To begin the work as far as that reconciliation that needs to happen. And anyone can take it.
Well, I'm gonna be quick. First, we have to identify those toxic habits that we have and that we have brought into from past generations. I think a lot of times we not only are we bringing in, or toxic habits are passed down from generation to generation, we start normalizing those toxic habits. and then we continue to pass them down from generation to generation. So we have to identify those toxic habits first. So that's first, identification. And just like Hanifa said, and even TJ said, we it's blame goes around. A lot of times I am more vocal when it comes to women because of what I have seen from women. And I mean, when you are raised by women and then you are primarily raised by women, you see more of those habits or the toxic habits that are being passed down. So a lot of times I will stick to those because I'm a woman and I understand how women think, and I understand the things that we have normalized and that we have passed down and we continue to pass down to the next generation. So if we can identify those toxic habits and heal from those toxic habits, then we can start having those real conversations of what is not normal, and let's stop normalizing toxicity in our community. And I'll let Friedman go ahead and talk.
Hold on, Kip. The solution is shut up. That's the solution. Choose better men and shut up, and you get a better result.
Freeman, brother, I get it.
That's what I'm saying.
I get it.
No, I mean,
no, hold on, brother. I get it. You're very articulate, intelligent. You could have used another word, brother. That's what I'm saying.
Okay, submit.
Thank you.
Quiet.
Thank you, brother. Thank you.
And submit. How about that?
That'll
go an extraordinarily long way, because when the men who are worthy of, not even worthy, don't let me use that word as if they need to be some sort of superman. A man who is willing to commit to you is worth it. So submit and be quiet. And when the men who are willing to commit to you, you will submit and be quiet for, you will encourage other men to model those men. Because positive feedback loops and negative feedback loops work together. So be part of that positive feedback loop. That's it. Because people like me are out there, because I'm sitting right here on camera. With a stay-at-home wife, have ascended several rungs on the socioeconomic ladder. So it's not a mystery. It's not a unicorn. It's not a Yeti. It's right here in your face. So there is no, it doesn't exist. It ain't out there, right? Because I'm here. So choose better, submit, and be quiet.
Friedman,
that's it.
Okay, that advice that you just gave is for one side of the spectrum. Do you care to speak to the other side? What do you have for the men's side that are functioning in the extreme, where they're sort of like, we don't need this, divest, we don't want, we're not messing with women, we don't need them, they need to just submit. Do you have any advice for the other side? Because you just spoke to women, that's very clear. So I'm asking you, I asked for us to give solutions as far as what both sides can do. So I want to hear what you would encourage the men to do as well.
What both sides can do, the men have already done. Are we talking about black men specifically? Because black men have already ascended up the socioeconomic ladder and have been doing so for decades. So it's not incumbent upon black men to do anything else, because the majority of black men don't have children. The majority of black men, there's so few y'all married. There's a huge pool of eligible black men that y'all don't want. I mean, the data is there. Numbers aren't sexist. So, and I can tell by look on your face, you don't want to hear that. Go ahead and rock that. But it is what it is.
Excuse me. Friedman, with all due respect, please don't come to the stage and try and read me. I'm actually engaged in the conversation, and I'm respecting everything that you're saying, sir. So please don't do that. I'm just asking you to please extend the same respect. Okay, I'm not shaking my head. I was actually looking at the comment section. That is all, sir. Thank you.
that is my advice to men is my advice to men would be the same. Choose better. And really a lot of men get bent out of shape about saying they need to level up and this and that, but men need to achieve so they have better choosing skills. Simply put, it's not that there's a negative attitude towards telling men to level up in the sense that, oh, it's validating women's complaints. No, it's not. Men, you will be able to choose better. You will make different decisions because you will not want your time wasted by someone who is not for you. You will tell a lot more women who aren't for you no, and you will tell them no faster. That's it.
Can I?
Okay. I see your church finger, sir. I'm with you right now. It's fine. So what I'm hearing is the advice is to choose better on both sides. And submit for the woman. For the woman, submit and pretty much be quiet. Yes. Right. Okay. So go ahead, chaotic. I see you. Go ahead, sir. Welcome. Welcome. I know it's your first time here, so we welcome you.
Thank you very much. I want to make sure that my mic is not too loud. Is it? Okay.
You're fine.
I was in the education field for over a decade, many years ago. I also worked in mental health. I also was a social worker for about 6 months, many years ago, and also was a probation officer. That was actually my first job out of college. It was a starter job. I did it for like a year. Every single job that I named, I saw the same thing. The individuals on my caseload for the probation department, the children at the schools that I taught at, the clients that I had when I was a social worker, 99% of them had the same thing in common. They came from single parent households. These households, these children at the schools that I dealt with, the most disobedient, violent children were from single parent households. When dealing with generally the mother, you dealt with an individual who doesn't have a stable man at home. So when she interacted with a straight Black man like myself, there was always problems at the parent-teacher meetings with me. When I was working in mental health, it was the same thing with these parents, the mother. And not blaming the mother, it's just that most single parents are mothers that are taking care of the child the majority of the time. I have one kid right now that was a student of mine. He's doing 33 years in the penitentiary now because of robbery. And he was a student of mine for like 2 weeks, and I already knew what was going to happen to him eventually. But anyway, the reason why there is so much toxicity in the African American community, from what I've seen, from what I've studied, is the broken home. I encourage a lot of, my fraternity brothers. I encourage a lot of my colleagues that if they to vet a woman, and I mean to vet hardcore. If you're going to meet a woman, in my opinion, I may offend everybody, but I've told people, make sure she comes from a nuclear family. That should be the benchmark. That should be the standard. I came from a nuclear family. My grandparents on both sides are dead, but they were married. And I'm not trying to be on this panel like I'm some sort of an angel. When I was in college, I was doing a lot of things that I shouldn't have been doing. And I continue that into my 20s. And now that I'm older, I really appreciate the fact that my parents married, and they're still married to this day. My dad is damn near 85, but they're still married. And I really believe that the stats are there. So 75% of households in the African American community are single parents households. The stats say that the majority of prisoners come from single parent households. The majority of violent offenders come from single parent households. The majority of it just goes on and on in terms of criminality, goes on and on in terms of other socioeconomic and political and socioeconomic factors in life. I really believe that this stressing the nuclear family should be paramount. at least that can be a start to fix the Black community. I wasn't born in the 1920s, the 1930s, 1960s, but from what I'm told and from the research that I've seen is that Black people, though we're married more, their communities were a lot better than they are now. And I think it has something to do with the broken home, and obviously drugs took over. I mean, drugs play a part, but I really believe that that men and women should stress dating other people from nuclear backgrounds. That's my take on it. Hopefully, I didn't fit anybody. So thank you.
Chaotic, you don't, the truth is this: you don't have to. You can come from a single parent household and still understand that a 2-parent household is probably what's best. So you don't have to apologize for that. You know what I mean? I don't see anything that you said as offensive. Maybe someone else does, but for me personally, no. Because the reality is this: some of us who grew up in single parent household understands the struggles that come with that, right? We understand the challenges that come with not having a father in the home and what that looks like. Not just women, but men as well.
Right.
Even when I was to Friedman's point, when he was talking about, when I asked what the men can do as well, I think it's connected, because the reality is that I talk to women all the time, and if we're coming from single parent households, my question is always, who is teaching you how to be a wife?
Right.
If
exactly.
you're not seeing it displayed. But it also goes to the men who are growing up in single, who are teaching you to be husbands. To simply say women just need to be quiet is an simplification of the problem, because you're asking women to submit themselves to men who have not learned how to be leaders and how to be husbands. But I really want to have everyone speak before I actually go on, because I do have my own opinions around it, and that's why I'm like, I'm not here to blame any one side, because I see where all of us can tighten up, right? I can even go on and say, I put some blame on our elders. Where are the elders? Where are they? Why are they not stepping in? Why are they not teaching, right? So when I say blame, I'm not blaming just one person. I'm blaming like man, woman, elders, men and women. Like, elders have a place. They're in the community for a reason. So I agree with you, Chaotic. Yes, the broken homes, that definitely contributes to how we are doing relationships currently. And it's not working. And so this is why we had to have the conversation, because something has to be done. What we are doing is not working. And I hope that there's no one that will come here and say, it is working, because I think we're all here because we understand that it's not working. But you gotta take me down, King, because I can't see. Henry, are you not Henry from the Facebook group? No.
No.
No, it's not you. But go ahead.
Good evening. How's everybody doing?
Somebody
What's going on,
staticky.
good people?
Somebody staticky. Someone staticky.
I wonder if it's me.
Henry, thank you for coming to the stage. Go ahead.
Can you hear me? Oh, okay. Good evening, good people. How y'all doing this evening? I just want to touch on a couple points, because up to this particular point, or at least the first part of the podcast or the channel was talking about saving or being a savior, and being a Christian. What I'm realizing, I heard my pastor talk on this at one time, and he made the difference, or he talked about the difference between a savior and a king. That most of us, we don't want a king. We want a savior. We want somebody that answers our prayers, to say yes to everything. We use words like manifest, oftentimes out of context, faith, oftentimes out of context, to somehow fit our contrived plan, like he's some concierge service. But when we talked about him being a king, that's when crickets, you can hear crickets in the room, right? When we talk about being a king, order, these are the rules. I made heaven and earth, the fish in the sea, birds in the sky. Millions and billions of years, I've created everything you see. And when it comes down to certain things as it pertains to how we should treat each other, God, you crazy. I'm going to do it my way. So we want a savior, but we don't want a king. We don't want somebody to tell us, look, our situation is extreme. You need to be quiet and do what I tell you to do. We don't want that. We don't want that at all. My mother used to say a lot of times when she used to get caught using certain words, she said, I'm not trying to be malicious, but I'm trying to estimate my point so you can see how severe the situation is. And we're in a severe situation. We have neighborhoods. We don't have communities. Because keep in mind, community, the root word is commune. The last part of that is the suffix, right? One of the things I thought was fascinating, when I met my wife, is that when she got here in Maryland.
Before you continue, I think we have like 141 people in here, and we are currently at 116 likes. And I know that you guys love the conversation going on. Can we get the likes up?
Thank you. That's what you do, Maricela. Get the likes up, Maricela. That's what I'm talking about. Get the likes up because we can't perform like that. We got Freeman on the panel. We got Chaotic.
I'm trying.
We got Henry on the channel. We got TJ on the panel. Get the likes up. And by the way, as we get the likes up, Chaotic, let me ask you a question. Two questions. What fraternity are you in?
Well, I'm a part of the greatest fraternity on the planet. So obviously I'm a distinctive member of Alpha Phi Alpha.
Oh, shoot. That's unfortunate. And the second question. That's unfortunate. I'm a Kappa. But the second question is, does your chair come with a parachute?
Does my chair come with a
parachute? It looks very expensive.
Okay. You talking about this chair I have?
Yeah, it's very expensive. I love it.
Oh, okay. Thanks. Thank you.
Right. So what I was going to say is, just I'm going to say this. When I met my wife, one I thought was real fascinating about, I also even found it a bit intimidating, which kind of goes to the trauma that Black people are still exemplifying in our day-to-day lives and how we look and perceive things, right? But when I met her, when she got here, when she touched down, my wife is half Nigerian and half Scottish. She was born in England, right? But when she got here, she immediately formed a community. And when I say community, I mean meaningful people, not somebody to just talk to smack with. People can give her real information that she can use. And actually, I gotta say, to be honest, I thought it was kind of like, why is she doing that? Who are these people? What do they want? What does she want from them? But she was building a community, not just from people from West Africa, from British people, mixed race people, Muslims. She just built the community. Then after a while, I'm like, wow, that's pretty fascinating. When my son needed medical care, she knew a pharmacist. When she needed legal advice, she knew somebody that was a lawyer, right? And all of them were married. All of them were married, which kind of was off-putting to my own family. I'm just giving you my own experience here, because none of the women in my family, except my daughter and one sister, are married. And I got 10 siblings. None of my cousins are married. None of them. They all women. They got like 2 or 3 kids apiece. Love them dearly. But I'm just kind of like giving you an example of what we're facing here. What I see here. So, from that particular perspective, focusing on that, and when we're talking about going into what's the problem, who's to blame, I kind of stay away from that, because I'd rather, like an old Chinese proverb once said, you focus on the problem, not the person or the thing with the problem, right? To get to a solution. So, I like to look at things from that particular standpoint. And not only that, another point, you got to look at what the numbers are saying, right? We got to kind of look at that, because we're in a, for lack of a better word, a pickle. The Black community is in a pickle, right? And I would be very afraid to be a leader, because we're not going to protect them anyway. He can tell 100 people to wear a white shirt and black pants, and somebody's going to show up with a black shirt and white pants. Again, when we talk about order, this is what I need you to do. I need you to tie your shoe right to left. We're not going to do it. We're going to come up with a reason why we shouldn't. We grown. I don't need nobody to tell me what to do. This is what I need you to do, and this is how you're going to do it. We don't want to do that, because it all boils down to, what are you willing to sacrifice? That's why we see jihadists as fanatical, because they're willing to give their life, everything that's theirs, for the cause? How many of us are willing to give their life? A sacrifice, not an offering, but a sacrifice. This is what I can't live without my life. Are you willing to give your life for that cause? Are we willing to give our life for that cause? Are we willing to say, you know what, I'm gonna step back because what I'm doing is not working. I'm a single mom without a man. I'm a man that's too emotional, right? I need to get that in check. I need therapy. Are we willing to do that as a community? Right? We saw what works. We see what works in other communities, right? Because they looking at us from the outside in. And I go into their houses every day. We have these conversations, right? And I'm defending, quote unquote, the culture, right? This is what they see. What do we value? Our axiologies, what we value, right? We value, this is the only thing they see is what, we can control that image that's on TV, the post office is hiring, right? Right? That's not female empowerment, or is it? I don't know. And last but not least, how we then separate what we know is happening and the effect it's having, right, versus how we feel about it. Again, going back to what are we willing to do to fix whatever problem and come to a solution to save our community, because it's in a real bad way. And Freeman Journal kind of talked about that, right? And one last thing, just real quick, another experience. My neighbor, I said, whose house we going over for Thanksgiving? Man, I don't know you like that. I'm like, dude, it's just a figure of speech, one, and I would more than welcome you to my house for a meal at any time, not just Thanksgiving. But he was just taken back. So again, we got to kind of look at a lot of those things. One, about reference to how we look at things and savior versus a king, data and statistics, and doing what we know we need to do to save our community. That's what we got to do. That's my take. I'll be here all week.
Thank you, Henry. Thank you very much. I completely agree. I agree with most of what you said. But thank you for that. Mama TJ, you came back to the stage for a purpose. I'm going to go ahead and let you get yours in before we move on.
Yes, Mr. Friedman's Journal invited me back with his compelling words. I felt I must get in on it. In as much as I did not like how he said it, what he said was accurate about, yeah, I know, it surprised me too. That, and I say that as a 54-year-old woman who didn't get married again until 52. And and didn't meet my husband until 51-ish. Because I had to unlearn some things. And that is why, Henry talked about, what are we doing to change? And that's one of the reasons, again, a shameless plug here, that I started my channel, because I want to teach young women not to have to wait 18 years, because I was divorced in 2002, did not marry again until 2019. I had to unlearn some things because I too was a single mother, of a daughter. I thought I was teaching her some things. I thought I was teaching her how to be a wife, but all I taught her was how to dominate. And she said that herself, because again, I was an officer in 2 branches of the military, single mother, the oldest, in my family, going up the ladder. So again, I had nothing to balance me to tone it down. I taught her about good grades and all that, but that didn't make her a wife. But fortunately for me, she knew that she wanted to be one, and she knew that she wasn't getting that from me. So she sought it from other places, and she is a wife. She to chaotic truth, I understand what you're saying. I don't disagree, and everyone has their preferences. I'm glad to say that I raised a reasonably adjusted kid who was able to position herself for her man to find her king to find her, and submit to him. And they just had their first baby. So I'm a grandma. But so again, to that point, we women have to unlearn some things. And I will say my grandfather, who is my everything, when you talk about the elders, Hanifa, my grandfather, born in 1910, he was among those who said, don't focus on getting married right now. Go to school, get your degree. That'll come later. Because why? Born in 1910, there were a lot of opportunities that weren't available to his generation. So he wanted different for his daughter and granddaughter. Had he known that he would have been setting me up, for lack of a better phrase, to be, you know, a domineering woman, I'm sure he would have thought otherwise. So, you know, we do things unwittingly that inadvertently wreck our buffet, you know, wreck our children, but we think we're doing the right thing. I thought I was doing the right thing, you know, trying to be this person to show my daughter the right things, but I showed her some good things that helped her in the business aspect, but not so much in the relationship aspect. So we have to unlearn some things. I did unlearn some things. I learned to be quiet. Yeah, I learned to be quiet. You know, and I learned, even though I have been used to doing things on my own, I have a husband. So even though I know how, I don't. First time in my life having to not, that my husband takes care of everything. Mm-hmm. Women, we don't know how to deal with that. We ain't never had it. We don't know how to deal with that. We think something is wrong, like, well, shit. I mean, shoot, I should be doing something. No, you don't. And I did an interview with my husband, and he talked about men, you know, don't even factor in your woman's money. That's extra. I've said it before. My husband don't even, I just got retired officially October 22nd from federal service. But before then, my husband never even knew how much I made. Never asked me. Still don't know. He don't care. But again, me, I would lead with that early on. I would lead that, you know, I have this degree. I'm an officer, you know, I'm a captain in the Army, and I do this. Nobody gives a damn. But you could have convinced me that then. But I'm glad I got the revelation, because I got my king and I ain't no fool. And that's all I got.
Mama TJ, thank you again. I just want to say this. So here's what I think a part of the issue is in fixing the problem. So we have women trying to tell men what they need to do to fix the problem, and we have men telling women what they need to do to fix the problem. So Mama TJ, you just spoke about you talking specifically to women, and I'm big on that, right? I have conversation with the women around me all the time, okay? I think that's important that we have women like you to talk to those who are coming, women who are coming up, to share what your errors were, what your mistakes were, what you know that you could have done different, you know, what you had to unlearn, and share some of those things. I think that we need men, Friedman, Chef, Chaotic, to talk to our men as well, because the reality is that I think everyone is to blame here. If we really want to put the blame somewhere, I think we could share it out equally, because and that's okay. I'm okay with that, because if we're going to talk about broken homes, women are not the only ones coming from these broken homes, and we have to realize that. So what does that mean? That means that, so just as much as women are not learning what they need to learn to actually contribute to the family, to the household, and to actually help maintain it, the men are not also learning what, because really you can't learn that from a woman. A man cannot learn that from a single mother. Let's be real. Let's be real about it, okay? And so when we talk about community, like Chaotic is saying, you know, some of our men, they don't have that mentorship. They don't have the uncles and the grandfathers like you, TJ, you know, around them, you know. And this is where I was disagreeing with King, because when he was talking about, you know, people need to protect their own households, the first thing that came to my mind is, so what of the widows? What of the orphans? Who is responsible for those people, right? We have, like, it has to go beyond ourselves, because there are people in our community that just don't have the protection for a number of reasons. Their husbands could have passed, their dad could have passed on. There are people who have children who have been abandoned. And I know we could get into why that is and so forth, but the reality is it is happening. So then how do we address that? And so the last thing I want to say is, I'm echoing. Oh, sorry. The last thing I wanted to say is this. I heard I watched the Kevin Samuels clip, right? Yes. Yes, I have watched some of Kevin Samuels stuff. I am not one of those women who, send him to the gullahs or, away with his head. I don't feel that way. I think all of us, we can all learn from each other. I don't care how you feel about another person. But I did watch a clip and he was talking to a nurse. And what stood out to me is the questions that he was asking her. She was about maybe 31. She wanted to be married, but here she was going back for her PhD, right? And he asked her a simple question. When you get married, do you want to stay at home and raise your children? Like most women say yes to that question, right? So he pretty much got into, okay, so then why are you doing a PhD? And she really could not understand why he was asking that question, because he was saying to her, you're getting older, right? You're spending all that time and resources into getting a degree. Why not put it into something else? I am of the mind, right, that if you didn't have a good example as a woman on how to be a wife, I think that you should be investing in things, right, that are going to teach you how to be a wife. If you need to go and invest in cooking classes, right? Because I know women, we have an issue with domestication. But what women see as domestication, I see as dominion, right? And what do I mean by that? I mean that in your home, that's your domain. It is an honor to be able to cook for your family. That is a big responsibility. You are responsible for the health and well-being of your family. Why is that such an issue, right? Also too, like, take classes. I mean, for goodness sake, Queen Afua is always offering Sacred Woman classes. Go through the Sacred Woman class for 4 weeks. We are getting into these femininity classes because we think all we need to do, and that's why I said I don't want to just narrow it down to just one thing. Women are taking femininity classes because all men are saying is that women need to rest in their feminine. And they're taking these femininity classes and it's becoming all about aesthetics, right? And it's becoming very performative. And they really don't know what they're doing. So my thing is this, the time and energy that we are putting into degrees, and I don't have a problem with women acquiring degrees, but all of the energy and all of these things we're putting money in, put it into building yourself up to become what you desire. If you desire to be a wife, then you have to invest in the things that are conducive to you being a good wife. If you want to be a mother, you should take parenting classes. I teach parenting classes. And the issue I have with Black women is that we think that we're just the best parents ever. And most of us are traumatizing our children. Most of us are jacking our children up, but you can't tell us anything. I am a big advocate. Take parenting classes if you have to. Go take some child development classes so that you can stop beating your children for doing things that for pretty much acting their age. Okay? 2-year-olds and 3-year-olds make mistakes. They should not be chastised for them. They should not be beaten for them. Take child development classes. These are things that you're saying you want to do. You want to be a mother? What does that mean? If you know you come from a broken home, just be honest about it. And some of us, we didn't come from necessarily broken home. We came from toxic homes. Because let's be clear, not because it's a 2-parent household mean that it's a healthy household. Okay? Because there are 2-parent households where the men are in the house, but they are absent. And there are 2-parent households where the mom is abusive as hell. So 2-parent don't necessarily, it's better than one, but it don't always mean healthy, right? I know friends of mine that have said, I don't know why my mom didn't leave my father. I know women who have said that because their fathers were alcoholics. This is a real thing. So I don't want us to oversimplify the conversation, because I think both sides need to have a conversation with each other on, men, hey man, this is what we need to do. And women, we need to be honest and stop coddling each other, because that's what we do. We cuddle each other as women. And I know it's in our nature. You know, we're nurturers naturally. But sometimes we are enabling our friends and our girlfriends in bad behavior, right? You can't say you want to be a wife and you ain't doing nothing. Absolutely nothing. You're not even doing the work on yourself to be a good wife. You think you're going to just walk into that man's space and just say, I'm here. Take care of me. I'm here. Take care of me. I'm cute. You know, my prettiness should get me everything I need. No, men require stuff of us as well. Men have standards as well. So when we talk about these things, I'm talking to women here. I don't have anything to say to Chef, to King, to Chaotic, to Friedman. I am not a man. There are men that need to talk to men. I'm speaking to women here because I know that we have a lot of work to do as women. And every time we talk about ourselves, we can't constantly say, well, what about the men? Can we have a conversation about the woman without the need to invite men to the table? Is that possible? So that's really all I want to say. I'm a woman, so I'm going to speak to women. I want the men to speak to men. That's fine. But I'm going to speak to women because I'm not about to tell a man this is what they're supposed to do. This is how they should conduct themselves. This is how they should lead. That is not my place to do so. But I could speak to women as you can, Mama TJ, right? Right? I could say this is what we could do better. So my thing to women is this. We can't keep saying this is what we want and we're not doing anything to align with the outcome that we're looking for. It's a contradiction and we got to do better in that department. I'm sorry. I know I said a mouthful.
Okay.
No, you did. It was good, Henrico, but we need to get the likes up. We really need to get the likes up because we keep having people coming in here and there's some good stuff being dropped and we're at 124. So I'm going to do King a favor with his analytics and please get the likes up.
My analytics is everybody analytics. If I don't get monetized, how we get paid?
King, thank you for having me on the panel. Man, I have to drop off. Thank you for
thank you, Chaotic. Anytime, come through, brother.
Thank you. Nice to meet you guys.
Thank you, Chaotic.
Okay, please, just one thing, please. Okay. You're absolutely right. And, thank you, because here's the thing. When me and my daughter talk on Saturdays, she is very candid about things I jacked up. And again, that's another reason that I do this, because for women who find themselves raising children, specifically girls by themselves, we need to be mindful of what we're doing to our kids when we don't know what we're doing, because we want to set them up for success. And if we don't know, we don't know. So I really talk and I allow my daughter to talk. And there have been many times I've been crying because, when she talks about what I showed her compared to what I thought I was showing her. So ladies, and again, my daughter is talking, she's 27. So she's talking to women too in her age group to say, okay, listen, if you want to be married, you need to quit hang around your single friends. She says that, and she's talking to them because two different generations, two different outlooks, but we both have the same thing. We had 2 weddings in 2 months, hers and mine, 2 months apart from each other. So there's hope. If it's hope for me, it's hope for anybody. But again, ladies, there is strength in submission. There is strength in submission. And I'm saying this because you could not have convinced me of it at 27 or at 37. But there is strength and freedom in submission. And now, for real, I'm going to leave. Good night.
I just wanted to jump in here real quick because I liked what was going on and I enjoyed being an audience member with a string box. But I kind of wanted to talk to Friedman's Journal. Peace, brother. First and foremost, I like the way you articulate yourself, and I could tell you're an extremely erudite brother. So in terms of the messages or the message that you were bringing to the table, when we talk about teaching kids, even you go to college, one of the first things you do before you take a class is a placement exam where you determine if you're going to, advanced placement calculus or remedial math, right? And that gives the school an opportunity to understand your gifts and your Achilles heels, right? we base our curriculums on the levels of understanding, not just of the sharpest 10th or 15%, but of also the least talented 85 to 90%. I feel what you're saying within the I feel what you're saying within your message, thank you, 100%. But now, within the garden, this special thing we've created here, it doesn't move red pill, it doesn't move blue pill. We call it true pill community. You can say it's more centrist. My thing in terms of the message, because we can't feed steak to a baby, in terms of where you are on the spectrum of knowledge and wisdom in this thing, you're OG, all right? And according to you, you are successful. Your message, I believe, it can go further, where people will eat the meat and spit out the bone, and it determines on the way they are what's going to be considered meat and bone. I think, though, that the message that you're bringing, like, say, the first one where it was like, look, just shut up and submit. I get it. I totally get it. But the thing is, I believe, and I know you have the ability to articulate yourself. I think that message would go much further. Listen, I know people are sensitive, but the question is, and I'm being face police because of your face. I understand people are sensitive, bro, right? But the thing is it about incensing them, unnerving them, or is it potentially bringing them closer to your level of understanding? They coat medicine in sweet stuff, right? Because your body can instinctively reject it if it's too tart or too acidic. So we wrap it in something sweet. So respectfully, I'm speaking to the OG, like, because you have messages and you have things to teach, and I see it already. I've never been on your platform, but I could see. You look like one of my college professors from back in the day, and your demeanor and everything. So I know you have a lot there. I think your message tends to, especially in this garden, is coming across more as fire and brimstone rather than Sunday school. You might need a little more Sunday school in it. You know what I mean? Because the sisters and the flowers within this garden, they are very sharp and they operate at a high degree of, vibration, bro. But the thing is, you got a message, man. You got a message. But I had to learn this too, especially in corporate America. If I'm speaking above the trees, then the plants and the animals don't actually hear what I'm saying, and then I'm just speaking. You feel where I'm coming from? I don't know. I was asking you if how do you feel about that?
Okay, so if we are talking about the community per se, right? The community. The situation is dire. It's not a time for sweets. It's just not. Sweets were for 20 years ago. The Cosby Show in a Different World were sweets, right? And that's rather paternalistic. You wrap sweet things for children. I'm assuming I'm speaking to adults. That's just me. So if the steak is too tough, spit it out. There's milk available on the platform. I'm just a guest. If you're gonna get steak every once in a while, hey, that's my role. But I'm not. I have that gear, so it is what it is. I won't be here every day. So, and as far as curriculum goes, we don't. The worst thing in public schools is teaching to the lowest common denominator. The worst thing. So we're not gonna. Why would I do that for the guests? Why would I? Why would I do that? That hurts everybody, So, I mean, I see what you're saying, but I'm not one for the tone. I mean, that you know, if you want to move forward, that's the solution. Submit and be quiet. Choose good men. I mean, it doesn't have to be more complicated than that. We don't have to sit around and, you know, belabor it and talk about it. We don't have to. You know, let's talk about it. Let's, you know, what's the solution? Submit, be quiet, choose better. Because if we're talking about black men are, the data is there that they've been doing it since the 60s, right? Got jobs, got education. I mean, increased their living standards. The data is there, right? And we can see the evidence in public. Like, what is the other one? What was that point? I mean, and you're saying that, like, I mean, listen, man, the damage that is being done, right? There's just, you know, the homicide rate is going crazy in America. You know, you're breaking crack era records without the crack. You know what I'm saying? I mean, the situation is not, it's not a time for niceties. It's just not. I mean, there's a body count associated with this, so I don't have time for that. I personally don't. I personally don't. So if, you know, I don't know. I see it as extraordinarily dire. I mean, I just do. I came out of the crack era. I went through puberty in the crack era. So I see it happening again to other black men. And who's got time for that? That's just my approach. I don't got time for that.
If I
You're
can
on
chime
mute.
in
You're on
really
mute.
quick.
You're on mute. Chef, you're on mute.
Oh, go ahead.
I want Marisol to go, but I think Chef was
Yeah,
responding.
go
but
ahead,
he-
Chef, and I'll go after you.
So I feel you, Friedmans. I grew up in the crack era. I was born in 72, right? So I was there. I seen people on both sides of the crack epidemic. I saw friends whose mom and dad were together and straight, and then 2-3 years later, their friend is living with grandma now, and their family is decimated. The only thing that I was saying to you is I understand where you're saying that we're in dire straits right now, and you have an antidote. How are you going to get that vaccine or antidote to those people? Just shut up and take it. If the impetus or precipitating factor for you exercising your voice is to share a message and bring folks closer to your paradigm, then I would think the method or mode of delivery would be tempered or tailored in order to allow that to happen, because then I'm just going to be standing on a box screaming at people, you know, like, and I would just be looked like, say, the Israelite brothers in Times Square that, you know, screaming at people that are walking by. But if my real goal on my inside is to actually help people, you know, because there has to be some sort of driving factor for you to want to share the message. Is it betterment of the people? Is it betterment of the community? And if so, then I would think that the modus operandi would be an important factor, because if they're not going to listen to the shit that I say, I either one have to tailor my message in order to make them listen, or I'm just pissing in the wind.
So there's the carrot and the stick. My wife's life is the carrot. The stick is what's going on right now, because it's only going to get worse. If the community doesn't want to believe, then don't. But it's going to get worse. More black men are going to end up killing more black men. That's just going to happen. That is not up to me. That is not up to anybody else. You know, black boys are not getting an education in school. So what is going to happen? More of the same. So, you know, you don't have to believe. Just wait. Just wait. Because the smoke is on the horizon. If you don't want to believe it's coming for you, then don't. consequences. Has anybody on the panel seen somebody make a rapid, remarkable change without consequences? You ever seen somebody change without consequences? That ever happened? Someone just was like, hey, oh my goodness, I'm gonna change my life around. I'm going from broke and making bad decisions to rich and making good decisions. So consequences have to happen, period. So, you know, that it is what it is. I didn't make it that way. I'm just a observer. And I did what I needed to do for myself and my family. And if you don't want to believe, just wait to watch Atlanta get burned. Because Tecumseh is marching to the sea again. That's what's happening. One thing I have to give props to Freeman. I give him props because he never stated he was a teacher. He's given a warning. Cool. But I have to side with my brother Chef, because if you are a teacher, and I have 2 masters, one from Boston College and one from Columbia University in education. And there is 2 things: curriculum and instruction. Curriculum is what you teach, and instruction is how you teach. Chef is talking about how you teach it, but you never said you were a teacher. You never said that. So we cannot hold you to the standard of being a teacher.
I say he's like a teacher. I put that on him.
Right. We never said that. But what I want to say, when I told you please don't say shut up, you adhere to that, and I appreciate that. Why? Because when you're in this, treat this like a nation. We have a certain language. So if you're going to communicate, we communicate in the language of love. But I appreciate that, because the way you were talking right now was graceful, monotone, and I appreciate that. And your message, to me, I agree with, literally most of it. However, in this particular place, just for the people the audience that we have, say the same message, but I'm not a tone police, but if you could bring it down so they could feel respected and loved, because that's how we do it. But I appreciate your message. Don't ever get it twisted. Thank you. Okay. Yep. No problem. So, and the one thing I want to say to that analogy is, people are coming to your class, right? If you're a teacher, they're coming. They're coming. And so they might not always like the curriculum. And like I said, I'm not here all the time. So when you need some steak, come and get it. If not, hey, this show will be on 5 days a week. And I won't be here. Sometimes. 7 days a week, and I won't be here. Right. So, that's all. So you the substitute teacher we're going to start throwing chairs at when you come into the room? Now I'm messing with you, brother. I'm messing with you. Hanifa, take over. You're the queen. Take over. All right. I got to go check on my baby. Bye-bye.
Yeah, thank you, Friedman, for your contribution. You have a good evening. I wanted to give Maricela a chance to speak, but before she did, I just wanted, I mean, he's gone, but I wanted to say that let's be clear, Friedman's solution is just one, okay? We asked for different solutions, and he gave the one that he think is best. It may not have been in the best, delivery. And thank you, King, for speaking up on that and correcting that. But that is what he thinks work. I think it's I think it's almost like really just oversimplifying the issue to think that you address one issue with one solution. But the reality is that we are where we're at right now because there are many different problems. And there are many different factors that are contributing to where we're at. And so therefore, there cannot be just one simple solution, especially one of just shut up and submit. Because you have women right now in the comment section that were coming from abusive relationships. So we got to be very careful when we have these type of conversation and our delivery and how we say things. Shut up and submit is to assume that all men are leaders and are doing what they're supposed to do and functioning at their highest self. That's an assumption. And we know that is not true, just like all women are not functioning at their highest self, right? So to just shut up and submit, for me, I was just like, you know what? That is his solution. I'm going to let him rock. But I just want to make it clear that is just one solution, and it happened to be Friedman's solution, and perhaps that works for Friedman. But I feel like I want to hear more solutions, because we can't just attack multiple problems with shut up and submit. So I just wanted to say that before Maricela went. Go ahead, Maricela. You've been waiting patiently.
I actually want to add that he also said choose better. He didn't just say shut up and submit. He also said choose better. And maybe that was after the fact, but I do kind of agree with him. I do agree that we women, and I can't speak for men, I'm not a man, and I would never. But we think that we could do it all without them. I mean, I think it'd be naive of us to think that we don't hold most of the responsibility, because we are the ones that bear the children in our womb from the get-go. They know us before they know them, right? So for me, I think it starts with the woman, and maybe then it gets moved on to the man. But I do think women need to be more submissive. I do think women need to appreciate their femininity. I don't think that we do. I think that we are focused on other things of life, whether it be education, whether it be money, whether it be looking good for men, but not wanting to be the wife, just wanting the title, per to speak. I don't know what the solution is, because I myself, I would be a hypocrite to say, oh, I have the solution, yet I'm a single mom, right? So I'm more so here to learn, but I do want to say that from my experience, it's just being more submissive, and also learning how to choose better, how to vet better, and listen to those that have made the better choices. So
I agree, Maricela, and I want you to go ahead and cook as well, because you've also been waiting patiently, Maricela. That part I agreed with as well, which is true. I forgot he said that part because God, but yes, choosing better. I think that women hold a lot more power than we're willing to own. And some of us who know the power we have, we don't use it for good. Oftentimes we use it to manipulate sometimes. And so yes, I agree, we can make better decisions as far as the partners that we choose to marry, the partners that we choose to have children with as well. So like I said, what he did say was just one solution, but to just make it a blanket statement like this is the solution. And just for the record, don't ever think that you don't have anything to contribute to the conversation simply because you're a single mom. You have been in relationship, just like TJ just came to the stage and she explained that she was a single mom and she had to learn and she had to unlearn some things. We are all still growing, whether we are married or not. So don't ever feel like because of what your status is, you have nothing to contribute. We all have something to contribute. Why? Because we are all experiencing life. So I just wanted to let you know that.
I appreciate that.
No problem.
I just want to address too the whole pick me comment. Like, I'm okay. You can call me a pick me, because at the end of the day, if I want something, I'm going to do my best to get it. So I've been called that before. I'm okay with that. Like, it is what it is,
Go ahead, Mama, because I know we're wrapping up soon. So you go ahead.
So I do agree that we are in a dire situation. It is dire. But I do think that we have to understand that we are at different levels. So everyone is not on the same level. So he can say that to me and I'm not going to be triggered by it, because I don't get triggered by submit to your man, right? And shut up, because I know what I bring to my relationship. But you can't say that to every woman. You can't even say that to every married woman. And so one thing that helped me on my journey, is my healing journey, is understanding that I had to stop looking and trying to find someone to blame. So I got married at 22 years old. I'm 36, so you can do the math on that. And it took time for me to get to a place where I stopped putting the blame on other people, because we can do that. And so there's a difference between identifying the root or the cause of something and actually blaming others for that, because everyone comes into a relationship with their own traumas. Your parents come into your lives or birth you, they have their traumas, and they are bringing their parents' traumas, their parents' traumas, their parents' traumas, and then here we are today. And so one thing that's very important when we talk about our in the spiritual community, we always say, know thyself, right? But we need to know what the first step is into knowing thyself is with that self-identity. And we don't understand what self-identity is and where we get it from. We first get our self-identity through education. But if we are in someone else's educational system, where are we going to get that self-identity? So when we say statements like Black boys are suffering the most from the education system, we have to understand why they're suffering the most, because there's no identity in that education system. We were put into an educational system that was not for us. It was not created for us. Anybody who homeschools their children or have a special type of curriculum for their children, they kind of understand that each, and especially if you have multiple children, you understand that each child learns differently. So I cannot teach that child the same exact way as my other children because they all have different learning styles. And so we have to, when we say things like, one of the gentlemen that was on the panel say things, and we idealize past relationships and saying that because of that the family units were together, that we didn't have those problems, that we have to understand everything that contributed to that. At that same time, we were being integrated into a system that was not designed for us. At the same time, we were letting more and more people into our communities that just wanted to get our gifts. And so when we say to women, sit down and shut up, we're also turning off what women bring to the community and what gifts that we also bring. There are things that we are going to see that that men may not see, but also there are men. That's why we have to have those balances. So I did not come from a nuclear family, but I understood that I desired to have that nuclear family because I understood the balance that it brings to create that. So when I also say about toxicity, identifying it, we have to be very clear on the toxicity that exists in our communities so that we can correct those actions while we're moving forward. And so a lot of times these are the tough conversations that we have to have. Like Hanifa talks about how we have to understand that 2 and 3-year-olds, especially when they're boys and they're being boys, we cannot abuse them just for being boys. And then we have to also teach our girls the right things and not say, oh, you're being fast, but actually understand that they're learning who they're becoming. And so we have to learn how to teach those things every step of the way. A lot of times we're learning just don't have sex as opposed to protect your energy, protect your womb, protect those energies that you're absorbing. And so we have to, and I say have to because I do believe it's a dire situation, but we have to understand the toxicities, the foods that you're intaking, the television shows, the music. We continuously have this division between men and women, but don't you think that the things that we're listening to also play a part in that? the things that we're watching on TV also play a part in that. And then on top of that, we're filling ourselves up with things that are toxic, that also, that it continues that toxic cycle. Nothing is in a vacuum. Nothing is separate from one another. When you consume toxicity through your mind or through your eyes, then it makes you also want to consume toxicity through your mouth. And so we have to look at things holistically and understand that if we want to get rid of those toxic habits, we have to identify those toxic habits. What are those toxic habits that you have, that you got from your mother or your grandmother, your aunties? And then we have those conversations as women with one another. And I agree with Hanifa when we say, we talk to the women because we're women. I understand how women think. I understand how women move. I understand what I think when I hear the word submit. I understand what I think when I'm talking to my daughters. I understand what they're going through. But at the same time, my husband has to talk to my sons because he knows what they're going through. He understands that. I cannot teach him. I can't teach my sons to be men, just like my husband can't teach my daughters to be women and to be wives. And so if we're going to learn those skills, it's going to take us having those conversations, and very difficult conversations with one another, because we're trying to protect the women that we love. We want to protect them. We want to say that what they did was okay, but we're normalizing the toxicity and we're normalizing the abuse that is perpetuating from generation to generation. So when we say that it's what can we do, or this is never going to change, are we going to continue to keep that cycle going, or can we change the cycle? Can we switch it to something else where we are actually changing the paradigm so that we're not continuously creating that toxicity? And I mean, that's an individual thing. Just like when we first talked about protecting women, or protecting Black women, that's individual. So just like Chef and King, they might have different ways of protecting who they want to protect, and that's individual. Just like I'm going to identify the toxic things in myself first, and I have to heal from those things first. I have to identify what is in me that is not right for my family first, before I can go to my community and say, hey, I want to be a part of this community. So just like Hanifa said, your first community is yourself, and is identifying and knowing who you are and healing from those toxic habits and toxicity, toxicity before you can spread that out into the to the community, into the collective. And the last thing I'm just going to say is something that I continuously ask myself. And if you watch any of my videos, you know, I always ask the question, what you're doing, is it helping yourself daily? Is it helping your family? Is it helping your community? Is it helping the greater collective? So if it's not, if you can really think about that and saying, what I'm doing, what I'm watching, what I'm listening to, what I'm eating, is it helping the community? And when I say that, I'm saying that whatever I'm ingesting and I'm absorbing, is it going to help generations from now? And that's all I have to say.
I know. Thank you, thank you. Well said. I know we have to wrap up. I'm gonna allow everyone to just give their last thoughts. I could start because after this I'm done. I pretty much just jot down a few things. One of the things that I think is the problem is that I this is my opinion. I think that we're way too obsessed with hierarchy and not obsessed enough with harmony. Okay, I'm going to say that again. We are way too obsessed with hierarchy and not obsessed enough with harmony, right? Masculine, feminine, man, woman, there's a harmonious dance that happens, that has to happen. We are so focused on where the woman needs to be and where the man needs to be versus actually getting to know each other. We are approaching each other based on gender, right? You're a man, so this is how you should be. You're a woman, so this is how you should be. You know, instead of getting to know each other as a person, not just the gender, but as a person, as an individual. We need to focus more on mutual respect. Mutual respect. I respect you, you respect me. That's the harmony that I'm talking about. And the last thing I want to say is that we better be very careful. Listen, Chef cannot tell me how to be a wife. Chef can only tell me how to be the wife that he wants. I cannot tell Chef how to be a husband. I can only tell Chef how to be the husband that I want. And that's where it starts to get real chaotic. And this is where the gap widens, because we are all coming into these spaces projecting our own individual hurt, our own individual preferences, our own individual experiences onto each other. And that's to assume that Ma'at is wired like Maricela. And that is not true. Okay? So as far as solutions, my thing is this. For the men, if you are hurt and a woman hurt you and you are struggling to really love a woman, right, in the highest way possible, I suggest that you go and find a therapist and unpack that before you even think about pursuing anyone as a wife. Because what happens in those situations is you don't, if a woman submits to you, you are going to abuse her. Right? Because you have your own issues around women. Same thing with women and men. A lot of women, they are out there talking about they want to be in relationships, and yet they have a disdain for men. Why? Because maybe they were abandoned by their fathers. Maybe an uncle touched them inappropriately, right? But they're still out here trying to do relationships, and they are entering into these spaces here, right? This platform, and they are projecting those hurts, those experiences, those traumas, those preferences onto all men. And it's creating a problem. So for me as women, if you know, and we know when we're struggling, we know when there's a blockage, we are aware of it, right? Now, whether we want to face the music and be honest is another story, but we know. But if you know you are struggling in that department, let's say for Black men, there are Black women right now who is just like, I'm done with Black men, right? And they say, well, Black men did this to me. And usually when I ask those women, and I'm speaking to women now, I usually say, all Black men? And then they say, well, no, not all. And then I say, well, all the Black men in your state? And then they say, well, no. And then I say, well, all the Black men in your community? And then they say, no. And as you keep digging, you realize that they were surrounded, right, by some whack Black men. And they're taking those experiences and now they enter into spaces with Chef and King and Chaotic and Friedman, and they are projecting that onto them simply because what? They're genders, they are men. So we really have to face the truth about what's going on within us, right? Like my aunt said, we have to really be honest about the stuff that we are carrying on that we actually should be breaking. We should be breaking those generational things, and yet we are carrying them on. Be honest about that, and then go and find someone clinical that can help you unpack it. Because that man is not your punching bag. That woman is not your punching bag, and I don't mean physically. Okay, there are different types of ways to abuse people. So as far as my solution, we really need to stop being so obsessed with who should be on top and who should be at the bottom. Stop focusing on, stop being so obsessed with hierarchy and really begin to understand harmony and to understand that we have to become more self-aware. right? So there are different dances in this world. When that person takes this step, what is my role in this dance? How am I supposed to be moving? Am I moving my shoulders at this point? Am I moving my waist at this point? That's the self-awareness I'm talking about. What role do you play in the harmonious dance? That's what you have to focus on. But all of us are we're focusing on what men need to do, and men focusing on what we need to do. What do you need to do? What do you need to do to show up as the best version of yourself? So that's my thing. It's just we need to stop being so obsessed with who's gonna be in charge. Who's gonna be in charge? Who's gonna be in the front? Who's gonna be at the bottom? Who is gonna submit? Who is gonna make all the decisions? It's mutual respect. It's harmony. That's what we need to focus on. And so do the work. Do the individual work. Do the individual work and stop focusing on what men need to do as a collective and stop focusing on what women need to do as a collective. Do the individual work so that when you enter into that space, you are malleable. You are open to any change that you may need to make in that space. So that's my contribution as far as the solutions. And lastly, we need to keep having these conversations, even though at times they become uncomfortable. We have to keep having them. We got to push through. We got to keep talking about it. So that's my last spiel. Maricela and Maat, you guys can go ahead. I know we got to wrap up.
Maricela, do you have anything to say?
No, I just like what Terry said. It's collaboration versus. To me, it means the same thing. I mean, you could put whatever word. I think submission triggers a lot of people, just to be honest. But to me, it's the same thing: mutual respect, submission. So, but good conversation. Thank you.
Chef and King, if you guys have any closing remarks.
Let me just say, for all the women that I don't deal with on a sexual level and I don't support financially or protect, don't look for me to protect you. Please don't look for me to protect you out here in the streets. The reason I say that is because I still am a firm believer that every man should focus on their families. And the reason why we don't have enough men to protect women is because men are not picking a wife and having children and sticking to that. I'm 41 years old, no children. I'm living proof that I'm not going to have children until I get married. And the only one I want to protect is a beautiful Mexican girl in Oregon and a Korean girl in New York and the Dominican. I'm joking. But at the end of the day, seriously, I really think we need to seriously find your wife and live your best life. And then everything will be smooth after that. Everything will be smooth. We have to stop worrying about fixing problems. Frederick Douglass said, it's easier to build a child than to fix a broken man. We too busy worrying about the past. We too busy worrying about the past mistakes and things she's a widow or she don't have this. All right, I understand that. But moving forward from today, what are we going to do as men? We need to pick our wives, make beautiful families, and protect them, period. But please go to Chef Page after the show because he's the person that's not going to avoid the question that Aisha Smith said, which was, if there's a transgender woman who's being attacked, a black transgender woman who's being attacked, should a black man risk his life to save her? That was the question that everybody avoided. And we're not going to get over that. We're going to his page to get the answers to that because nobody wants to get in trouble with the rainbow community. But he's not afraid of that. So we're going to go to his page to answer that question, Chef.
Yep. And I'm going to end this off with a quote that I found. This is not my quote. but it rang true. It says, we're blaming society, yet we are society. So to make it a better place, we must change ourselves first. So let's unpack that when we jump over to the crib.
That's it. I like that name. I like the name, the crib. That's dope.
Or the
All right,
kitchen.
the kitchen.
Kitchen.
I
Hold
like
on,
the crib.
Maya hasn't had a chance to say anything.
Oh, sorry.
Oh, I thought you
Well,
did.
I think I pretty much summed up what I had to say. The last thing that I said. I agreed a lot with what Hanifa was saying. But these tough conversations have to be had. I am a firm believer in these conversations being had behind closed doors, not necessarily for the world to see, because that's how the most impactful things happen in the dark. So, that's very important that we have those conversations starting with our family, our first community, self, and family. And then we then have we have those conversations with the community so that we can create a greater future, even if we don't see that future. Even if we don't see the fruits of our labor, it's important that we start planting those seeds for future generations. So that's all I have to say. And remember, you can follow me on my channel. Check out some of my past videos at My Aunt Speaks. And you can also find me on Instagram at Generational Health Revolution.
Thank you, Ma'at. If you want to follow me, you can follow me at Hanifa_N_George on Instagram. I do not have a YouTube channel as yet. I do intend to create one. But yes, if you need to follow me, again, it's Hanifa_N_George on Instagram. And Maricela, you could close us out.
Well, just everybody have a good night, and we'll see you guys tomorrow. King?
I'm going to Chef Page. All right. Brooklyn.